Hey, and welcome to the OT is in Insiders. This is our very first monthly meeting. Now, if you are watching this on YouTube, this is the presentation of our monthly OT is in Insiders gathering. And our members stayed afterwards for a live Q&A where we applied these ideas to their specific homeschool situations and where they just got to ask questions about their day-to-day lives within their homeschools. Now, if that kind of individualized support would be helpful for your family, I'd love to have you join us next month, and that link is down below. Because guys, the information is important, but the application is really where transformation begins. Now, this question is one that I've heard over and over and over this year as I was out on, conferences, and also what I get from emails, and where people are not quite sure whether their kids have a genuine need or if they are just have this fear of that their child is falling behind because of comparison. And you guys, I love homeschooling. I just graduated my first from our homeschool. She's off to college, and I love individualized education. But sometimes there is a downfall when the comparison that we see is from social media. The comparison is not from, norms that are within a classroom setting or norms of kiddos that are all coming from genuine, same areas, that type of thing. And so we don't really know what should a child be able to do at this time. And there are norms for a reason for evidence-based practice. So that's kind of what we're going to cover today. Now, this conversation is a little bit more nuanced than even what I was talking about in the past slide. Have you ever heard early intervention matters? So don't wait, ask for help, right? This is what we get within our evidence within the occupational therapy world when we're thinking about motor skills and cognitive skills. That yes, when we can start at the beginning, when kiddos are little, we make faster progress, and then it does affect their development throughout life. But have you also ever heard kids develop at different rates, so go slow and don't stress, right? These things seem to be in direct contrast. And there is also evidence that if we are pressing our kids, having high expectations and filling their days with therapy after therapy or appointment after appointment, that level of stress actually impacts their progression. So here lies in the nuance, right? When are we coming too early, and when are we waiting and too long? The answer is actually more in a mindset shift, where instead of saying, is my kiddo behind, what we want to think about is, what is making this situation difficult? And am I seeing the same situation across different occupations? I'm an OT, right? Or activities that you're doing throughout your day, how you're occupying their time. Are we seeing consistent patterns across that? So asking ourselves 3 questions can help to determine that answer. We can say, is this a skill problem, right? So if it is across lots of different areas. Now, for example, with my son, when he was learning to read and was having a hard time, he kept losing his spot within the page. And later on during the day, I literally saw him get smacked right in the face when he was playing Frisbee, right? So I could say this is a visual skill problem. This is something that we need to work on. And yes, I need to get in there earlier so that I can work on those eye muscles and we can influence the way that his brain is processing visual information, right? So I could say, yes, that is a skill problem. It's something that their brain or body literally could not do. Now, is it a support problem? Now, one of my kiddos specifically really struggled with remembering to brush his teeth, right? This was not if I was telling him other things to do during the day that he forgot. It would happen to be, I think, because of the time of day, first thing in the morning, just really struggled with getting himself alert enough to then recognize, what are the things that I need to do first, second, and third. We tried all kinds of stuff, like make sure that when you go into, go to the bathroom, that you're going to brush your teeth too. And that just did not jog his memory well enough. So we were like, this is not happening throughout the rest of the day. This is something that we can model or change within the environment. What we ended up doing is I put a bracelet right next to his toothbrush that at night when he brushed his teeth, because he didn't have a hard time remembering then, at night when he brushed his teeth, then he would put on that bracelet. And then the next day when he would get up, if he still had his bracelet on, he needed that visual cue. He still had his bracelet on, like a little bit later after he's reading or something, he would notice it and be like, oh, I forgot to brush my teeth. Go up and brush his teeth and take it off. Now, we did partner that with things like, hey, what do you feel in your mouth right now, like right before you went? Because I don't want him to have to wear that bracelet for the rest of his life. But right now, it was a support problem. It was not something that we needed to go seek out assistance and therapy for, but was something that I really wanted to target within him. So in that case, if I was worried about only the norms of those around, I'd be like, yeah, most kids your age can do that. But for him, he just needed a different way to help to remember that. So that's the support. Now, I want to think about the expectations. So have I personally communicated my expectations and the why behind them? Because a lot of times kiddos will resist unless they understand that why. So when I'm considering, do I need to seek help? Or, so that I can get in and really help to support my kiddo's brain? Or do I just really need to adjust my expectations and communicate them to my child? So ask yourself those 3 questions and think about one step that they can do today. Now that step could be you. It could be recognizing and observing and saying, is this happening across the day and causing struggles within different areas of occupation or how you occupy your time? And then that first step could be, yep, I'm going to call and get some therapy. Or it could be, what is one thing that my kiddo can do? Now, here's an example with handwriting. So if your expectation is that they can write an entire paragraph and you have communicated that, like this is what we want you to be able to do, and here's my why, right? Well, then we need to think about, okay, what is one step that they could do to help to get along that? And we want to think, what is one step easier, or what support could I add there? This is what we call the next step formula. And in OT, it's activity analysis. And I recognize this can be a really hard thing to do, and you may not actually know what one step easier is. And that's one of the things that we do in the OT is in Insiders and what we talked about right after this slide. So with handwriting, it could be, if your goal is, I want you to be able to write a whole paragraph, but that's not happening right now. Well, think, can you write one sentence? If the answer to that is still no, could you copy one sentence, right? Maybe you tell me, I write it and you copy it, because we're still using the motor skills there. We're still using the visual back and forth, and you're still coming up with the idea. Well, if that still doesn't happen, one step easier could be, could you tell me that sentence? And then I'm going to write it for you. If not, can you draw any picture to get any type of idea out? Like maybe the verbal output isn't working, but we still have a way to get something out there. And if not, well, now we know where to start, right? We want to think about that as it. And if that is where we're starting, depending on what developmental norms would be and the ages of your child, that's where we want to say, okay, is this consistent across areas where my child can't tell me what they need? Then I need to seek out some assistance. Is it across areas where my child cannot use their hands to express things around them or even to open containers, things like that? Then that's where we would need to seek out. But right here with that specific thing, okay, what supports can I give in that? So if this is ringing any bells, I really hope that you join us next month.